falling and breaking. And I had screwed and duct taped and Velcroed these things to the walls, and they still kept falling. And the statue, we did an SB7 spirit box session with that as well. And it was situated in the dining room to where it was across from a mirror. And when we did the session, it kept saying golden double. Golden double. And I was like, what is it talking about? And the statue's golden, yeah, but what's golden double? And then I looked around and I was like, the mirror. It sees itself in the mirror.
Interesting. But that's one thing.
Yeah.
My wife used to love. She used to be a pack rat. I mean, she'd go into thrift stores. That was like somebody walking into Walmart. That was her big thing. She'd buy stuff, and we had no place to even put it. And as fast as she was buying it, me and my one son, she was bringing it in the front door. We were going out the kitchen door with something else to balance out the load. That's how bad it was at one point. And I tell you, she liked going to estate sales, and I said, don't buy anything from somebody who's passed on, because you're maybe going to bring something in our house we don't want.
Exactly.
And she didn't want to believe me on that. I don't know. James out there is listening. How do you feel about people going to estate sales and buying, be it a CB radio or a stereo or, a whatever? What's your feeling about buying something from an estate sale? Especially, I'll be honest with you. One point early on in our marriage, we didn't have much money. Now I've been married 42 years, so this is going back. We got from an estate sale a bed, the mattress and box springs. And I'll tell you something. I used to have nightmares so bad.
Some things that if you sleep on them or have them near you when you're sleeping can affect your dreams.
Well, and it was just me. We got rid of it and we went out and bought an actual brand new one. But I started wondering, I wondered if that person died on that bed. I mean, because it was really weird dreams. And as soon as we got rid of that box spring and mattress, guess what? I didn't have those dreams anymore. They were gone.
Yep. That's a lot of people buy stuff and bring it home, and then things start happening, and they'll call in a paranormal investigator. And if they narrow it down to a specific object or objects, they'll say, well, take this out of the house for a week and see what happens. If things calm down, then this is the issue, and we'll take it away for you. Or take this out of the house and see what happens. You can do that if you want to get rid of something negative or something that you just don't like that came with something. You can take it away for a little while and see what happens, see if things improve. And if they do, then get rid of it.
Yeah. Now, James has this post up here. Anything can have attachments. I've been buying and selling antiques for a long time, so I know the best thing is to use your gut feeling on any object. Yeah, James, I think you're right, but don't buy a mattress.
Exactly.
Don't buy a mattress.
We were my daughter and I were in Goodwill one day, and there were these antique glass balls. I thought they were like a cemetery type decoration. You stick them in the ground. They've got a glass ball on top and an iron cross on top of that. And there was a pair of them, and one was red, one was green. But as soon as I touched them, I felt sick to my stomach. I felt so horribly sick. I thought I was going to have to leave the store. And we actually did leave the store, and I couldn't stop thinking about them. And when we left the store, I felt fine shortly after. And like a couple of days later, I got the money to buy them, and I went back because I couldn't stop thinking about them. I said, I've got to get them. I said, I think somebody stole these from the cemetery, and something's wrong. So I didn't want somebody else to end up with them. And I went back and I bought them. And again, I felt sick. And because I had them in the van bringing them home, I was sick all the way home. And I felt like I was going to vomit sick. And we got home.
What did you
and
do
I
with
didn't
them?
bring them in the house because I knew there was something wrong. So I stuck them out in the garden by, there's a Mary statue out there that was there when we moved in. And they've been fine ever since. I can go near them. and I feel nothing. So I think whatever it was just didn't want to be in that store. I think they wanted to be what they were intended for, and which is a grave site. And these are Victorian. I looked them up online. They were made in the 1800s. And there is a previous owner's German Shepherd is buried under that statue. So I think because now they're kind of being used as what they were intended for, they're okay now. But yeah, it was. I've never actually had something that made me feel sick, physically sick, like that before.
That's interesting. You know, the strangest thing I ever seen was in the main Goodwill store in Seattle. And I was probably about 15, 16 years old. My dad, we'd go there because my dad was an electronic engineer. So he's always buying radio parts. He'd buy old radios and restore them as a hobby. One of the things. And they had a casket. Somebody donated a casket. Now, evidently, they bought it and they never used it, but they donated it. And I looked at that thing, and I tell you what, I got the weirdest feeling I ever seen. It just didn't feel. It didn't feel right.
Yeah, that's usually most people, if they don't understand what can happen when they bring things home, that give you that weird feeling, that kind of back off. No, I'm not touching that kind of feeling. Sometimes it, trust your gut. If it's giving you a creepy, bad feeling and you don't know how to deal with that, then stay away from it.
Oh, yeah.
But if you do if you have like an intuition on how to deal with what it is, then I would say go ahead. But usually I'd say stay away from things like that.
Yeah.
Especially things that will make you physically sick.
Oh, yeah.
Even though I didn't stay away from it, I brought it home, but I didn't take it in the house. I stuck them out in the yard right where the dog was buried, and haven't had any issues since.
Yeah, whoever buys my house after I pass on and my wife passed on, I really feel sorry for them. In our backyard, we have 2 goats planted, a couple dogs, and a mini horse. So,
oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Well, we're a mini farm, but no people that I know of.
I feel sorry for anybody that buys our house because we have some portals. We have at least 2 that we know of. We were told through the spirit box that there were 8. But yeah, the land we're on, it's not so much the house, it's the land we're on. Used to be a farm. When the British came through, they burned it down, killed all the chickens, and we didn't know it was a chicken farm. And when we first started doing spirit box sessions in the house, we kept getting, a little girl kept saying, pull it, pull it. Like we'd ask what kind of farm this was, they would say, pull it. And I'm like, what the heck is pull it? What do you want me to pull? And my daughter looked it up online, and pullet is an egg-laying hen. And that's what they used to call them, was pullet.
Interesting.
And we didn't know that. And she kept saying, pull it. And I'm like, pull what? I'm not going to pull anything.
Oh, no. So going back here, because we only got a few minutes left here, how often do you go to that lake and find all these medals and trinkets? And
every day that I can. Right now it's flooded. There's no shoreline. The lake is up a few feet more than it should be. So I haven't been able to get out there looking in a few weeks. But during the summer and the fall and the spring, every day that I can get out there, I'm out there.
Well, maybe it's good in one way that it flooded, because maybe it'll work some of the stuff loose that, is maybe, buried a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll wash stuff. Sometimes it'll wash stuff out closer to shore. Sometimes I have to go out there and snorkel for it.
How you do? How far out do you go looking for it?
Not very far. Maybe at the most chest high. But I like to lay on the top of the water and see underneath and just kind of float along and swim along and look for it. And I usually find it. I've been told I'm a human metal detector, and I can find this stuff.
Interesting.
as if I had a metal detector.
Well, you know, some of that stuff I'm thinking too, when they got discharged out of the military, a lot of the people just left their uniforms. And that's how some of this stuff ended up, you know, but the amount that I see you're getting, that is a huge amount. You know, up here at the old Western State Mental Hospital, not the newer section, but the old section that goes back before the turn of the century, there's a pond there. And I know at one point they were cleaning the pond out, and this is like 20 years ago, but people were going before then, and they were finding all kinds of relics, you know, from people that passed on, and somehow, you know, and this was a huge pond. It's so you know, actually it's almost a small lake. And it would they would toss it out in the pond or lake. And people were finding weird things, you know, like silverware. They were finding, you know, rings like you were talking about.
Oh, my God, you got to see the silverware I have. Funny you mentioned that. You know those wooden silver chests like your grandmother would have the family silver in, and those big wooden chests that would have all the forks and knives and spoons for 20 people? I have one of those that is loaded with silverware from the lake.
I wouldn't doubt it. You know, one thing, when I was in junior high school, you know, that's right after they invented the wagon wheel. A couple of my friends, we would go downtown Seattle, and by by the Pike Street Market, there was the old Salvation Army store, which was like, back then it was really old. There was a St. Vincent de Paul store in the same area. You know, one day we were just looking at stuff, and we would buy World War II German helmets because we'd get them for like $5-6 and sell them for $30. Well, hey, when you're in junior high school, that's a lot of money, especially back then. Then I was going through, and I saw this silverware. They had sterling silverware, and they never bothered. When people donated, they just threw it in the bin. They didn't, you know, the people that sorted through back then, they didn't even bother to look to see if it was sterling silver or, you know, plate. And we used to go there for a long time before they caught on what we were doing. And I think we did it for almost a year. We would go, and every weekend we'd buy, you know, between those couple thrift stores, we'd buy all the sterling silver. Then we would, you know, the following weekend we'd take it up to a place that would buy silver, and we were making a killing on it.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I mean, you buy it for 5 cents and sell it for $5, $10. It was interesting. We'd find all kinds of stuff, and being sterling silver. Young people nowadays don't know what it's like. I mean, back then, let's face it, people weren't as savvy about stuff.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, I found mostly I find like military silverware. It'll be stamped USQMC or USA or USMD, something like that. But I do find fancy silverware with designs and beautiful patterns on the handles. And the most awesome one I found was a broken handle piece. It had a naked lady on it.
Well, maybe somebody liked naked ladies.
And she was posed. She looked like a 1920s or maybe early 19-teens type of figure, like artwork. It was three-dimensional. It wasn't a flat design. It was three-dimensional. And she had two little cherubs peeking out from her. I found it, and I was like, what the heck is this? And then I got it in the sunlight. I'm like, oh, my God. It's a naked lady.
Now, are you finding any sterling silver out of there?
I found a sterling silver berry spoon, a very ornate berry spoon, and I read the hallmark on the back, and it was made in 1901, and it was sterling silver.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I found like child-size utensils, forks and spoons. I also found mess kit-size forks and spoons. You know, the little mini ones.
Yeah, it seems like, hey, our time is up, but Karen, it seems like you had a very interesting and do have a very interesting life, you know, and keep finding, you know, and keep posting it up on Facebook, because every time you post that stuff up, I look at it and it intrigues me. I like anything, you know, from the past. And just think about,
I do too.
Just think about all all that stuff that young people don't